Okay guys, here we're going to do some more complex solving of linear equations. And now, in this case, what I really want to focus on is what to do when there's a fraction. Okay, because what people tend to do is they tend to make it more difficult than they need to. And yeah, that's not very useful, is it? Okay, so we'll start with a couple of really easy ones, and I'm going to show you a technique that will make this easier for you and will make it much more straightforward how to solve a linear equation when there's fractions. Okay, so again, starting with an easier one. If we have f over 5 plus 2 is equal to 8. Okay, and as I said, this is a really easy one, but I'm going to use it to teach you the technique so that you can see how it works really nicely. Okay, now we can just minus the 2 and work it that way, but this way will make it a little bit more useful when you get to the harder ones. Okay, so you can see that what's making this messy at the moment is that it's divided by 5. The f is divided by 5. Okay, now what we can do is we can try and think of a way to get rid of that divided by 5 at the beginning so that we don't have any fractions anymore. All right, now the opposite of dividing, the inverse operation, remember we said the inverse of dividing, its inverse is times. Okay, so what we're going to do is instead of dividing by 5, we're going to multiply by 5, but we're going to do that to the whole equation. So we're going to do 5 times this entire side, and we're also going to multiply the other side by 5. And what this will do is this will get rid of that fraction. Okay, so when you do this, you have to be careful because you have to expand your brackets properly. So 5 times f divided by 5, well, you can see 5 divided by 5 is 1, so that's going to go away. So we get left with f plus 5 times 2, which is 10, is equal to 5 times 8, which is 40. Okay, and now this is much nicer to work with than when we had that fraction. So your next step now is just to minus 10 from both sides, and this will get us f by itself on the left is equal to 30. Okay, that's quite a nice way to solve this one. All right, let's try a slightly harder one. So we will keep it fairly straightforward. If we have x over 4 equals x over 5 minus 19. Okay, so again, we have a fraction and it's on both sides this time. And actually in this case we have two different fractions. Okay, so this does make it a little more complicated because you need to think about what we can multiply by. So what we need to look for is a number that multiplies by both, that can be divided by both 4 and 5. Okay, so we're looking for what we call the LCD, which is the lowest common denominator. Okay, so we're looking for the lowest common denominator. So this is a number that divides by both 4 and 5. Okay, so really easy trick for this is just to multiply them together. Okay, sometimes you don't need to do that, but in this case 4 times 5 is 20. 20 can be divided by both 4 and 5. So that's a nice quick way of doing it. So what we're going to do is multiply both sides by 20. Okay, so 20 times x over 4. Now, what you need to do here is 20 divided by 4. This is an easy way. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So we have 5x is equal to 20 divided by 5 is 4. So we have 4x minus 20 times 19, which should be 380. Okay. Now we have the same situation where we had an x on both sides. So what we're going to do here is minus the smaller one. The smaller one here is 4x. So we're going to minus 4x from both sides. 5x minus 4x is x is equal to minus 380. Lovely. Okay, so that one was fairly easy. Let's make it a little bit harder. Okay, so if we have 5 over 4x plus a half is equal to 2x minus a half. Okay, so you can see again that we have denominators all over the place. All right, one's a 4 and one's a 2. So we need to think about a number that can be divided by both 4 and 2. We want that lowest common denominator. So 4 can be divided by 4, and 4 can be divided by 2. So this time, what we're going to multiply by is 4. Okay, we're going to show that here. So 4 times 5 over 4 is just 5. So we have the 5x here. 4 times a half, so 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we have 2 is equal to 4 times 2x is just 8x minus 2. Okay. Now here we need to think about what we're going to do. We again have a unknown on both sides. The smallest one's the 5x, so I like to get rid of that first, because then you don't have to work with negatives as much. So 5x minus 5x, that's gone. We have 2 on this side is equal to 8x minus 5x, which is 3x minus 2. Okay. Our next step, we want to get the 3x by itself, so we're going to plus 2 on both sides. So we get 4 is equal to 3x. And now, at the end, we always want the x to be on the left, okay? So when we're going to divide by 3 here, what we're going to do in that last step is we're just going to flip them around so that the x is on the left. So we're going to have x is equal to 4 over 3, okay? So I hope you can see how much easier this is making it than working with those fractions at the beginning of the question, okay? Now I want to throw in a little bit of a harder one, okay, just to account for another example of what you might see. So if we have 3/4 t minus 2 is plus 1/12 is equal to 5 over 12 t. Okay, so you can see here that our denominators are 4 and 12. So a number that can be divided by both of those is 12. All right, so we're going to multiply by 12. Now, here is where you have to be careful, okay? Because when you do 12 times 3/4, you're also multiplying it by the t minus 2. Okay, so when you've got a bracket, we just multiply that 12 out first, okay? You could have also expanded the brackets first, but when you do this, you've also, there's already a multiply in here, and you don't want to then accidentally multiply it by what's inside of the second bracket as well. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9, so we have a 9 here. T minus 2 plus 12 times 1/12 is 12 is equal to 12 divided by 12 is 1, so we just have 5t. Okay, much nicer, isn't it? So now we have 9t minus 18 plus 12 is equal to 5t. Okay, we're going to just simplify this. So 9t minus 6 equals 5t. Remember I said here, pick the smaller variable, so the smaller one is the 5t, so we're going to minus 5t from both sides. So we get 4t minus 6 equals 0, plus 6 on both sides. 4t is equal to 6, divide by 4, and we are going to get t is equal to 6 over 4, or t is equal to 3 over 2. Okay, you don't need to change this to 1.5. 3 over 2 is perfectly fine. If you want to go further with this, then you're more likely to need 3 over 2. Okay, it's much easier to work with. Okay, so this is an example of the type of questions you should be able to do, and I really want you to get comfortable with multiplying out those denominators, okay, because it really just is so much simpler to have it in this form than looking like this mess with all the fractions everywhere. Okay, so it's far easier to have them without the denominators there than trying to work with fractions all the time. Okay, good luck.